Hi, I'm Robin with the Grundy Museum.
And I'm Natalie with the Grundy Museum.
Thanks for joining us today. We are a Victorian house museum, and our architectural style is the Queen Anne style. And this type of architecture is typically seen in a lot of imagery in Halloween movies and photographs. Although we don't have any ghost or spooky tales to tell, we thought it would be a great time to share with you Victorian Halloween traditions.
Halloween customs today date all the way back to antiquity, and what we know of in the modern day Halloween really got its roots in the Victorian era.
So we hope you enjoy the video, and we're so thankful that Natalie and staff worked on this, and we know you're going to love it. Happy Halloween! In this presentation, we will explain the historical basis of this spooky holiday and how Halloween customs in the Victorian era shaped how we celebrate Halloween today.
To understand how Halloween turned into the fun holiday we know today, we have to go back in time, way back, to the time of the Celts and the Romans. The Celts were a group of people living in modern-day Western Europe, particularly Ireland and Great Britain. They celebrated a fall festival called Samhain. Samhain marks the end of the Celtic calendar year and was a highly spiritual holiday that focused on connecting to Celtic ancestors and the past through stories and rituals. The Celts believed that the end of the fall was when the veil between the living and the dead was thinnest, allowing otherworldly creatures to visit. Samhain was also the end of the fall season, which includes a final harvest before the harsh winter would set in. Celts, as did other cultures, relied heavily on that final harvest to help feed them throughout the winter. If it was a plentiful harvest, Samhain was a time to celebrate that good fortune. If the harvest was low yielding, Samhain was a harsh reminder of death and how close it may be. The Romans had a similar festival, known as the Festival of Pomona. Pomona is the Roman goddess of fruit trees, gardens, and orchards, and was believed to watch over and protect them. The Festival of Pomona, like Samhain, was also held at the end of the fall season after the autumn harvest. Seasonal fruits such as apples, nuts, and grapes were eaten during the celebration. Not much is known about the rituals and ceremonies associated with this festival, but Pomona was a goddess that Romans would regularly give sacrifice and gifts to. By the 1st century AD, the Romans and Celts would have inhabited many of the same areas of Europe, making it very understandable that those two holidays eventually merged customs.
In addition to the Celts and Romans, many other European cultures also celebrated holidays at the end of autumn. All of these holidays merged together over time, and it was this merged holiday that came to be known as Halloween. Halloween was an early version of Halloween, which gained popularity in the 1800s Europe. There are even records of Queen Victoria participating in these celebrations. Halloween focused on keeping away bad spirits, creatures, and witches that hide in the darkness by carrying lit torches around and having a large bonfire. Throwing an effigy of a witch into the bonfire was both a symbolic gesture and a form of protection. It symbolized the rejection of evil and discouraged witches and other creatures not to harm or interfere with the people present.
Prior to the 1800s in America, autumn celebrations were common and usually involved a town-wide festival of sorts. It was a way to socialize and was more about simply having fun than anything ethereal. It is important to note that since the founding of the United States up until this point, Protestantism and Catholicism were the most popular and influential religions. Both of these religions at the time were strongly against any actions related to spirits, witchcrafts, and other creatures. Hence, autumn play celebrations in the United States tended to not involve traditions or rituals that played into otherworldly beliefs. During the Victorian era, a large part of society shifted from those religious beliefs to embracing superstitions despite the fact that it was against church teachings. This shift led to the rise of autumn play parties. These parties included eating apples and nuts, telling ghost stories, fortune-telling games, dancing, and singing. As autumn play parties incorporated otherworldly undertones into their traditions, it was readily believed that spirits came out on Halloween and caused mischief to the living. This in turn led to the tradition of pranks and mischief night, which appealed strongly to young boys. Most pranks were fairly harmless and small, like ringing doorbells and running, or throwing turnips at doors and houses. However, some pranks went even further, such as blocking roads, letting farm animals out of their enclosures, and stealing people's front gates, which were then hidden elsewhere on the property or even put up in a nearby tree. By the Victorian era, Halloween turned into the holiday that we know today. Halloween became a light-hearted celebration for all ages with town-wide bonfires, parades, and large feasts. People of all ages began to don costumes during these celebrations. Costumes were originally used to confuse the mischievous spirits and make you unrecognizable to them. However, costumes quickly became a way to have fun and be something or someone else for a day. Costumes were normally homemade, with witches and animals as the most popular choices. It was not uncommon to see people dressed up as the opposite sex, particularly men dressing as women with dresses, hats, and even makeup. Once the Industrial Revolution took hold, costumes began to be made in factories and bought in stores, but homemade costumes were and still are popular. Going hand in hand with costumes, the tradition of giving out food or sweet treats was brought over from Europe by the way of immigrants. This tradition quickly gained popularity, and today we call it trick-or-treating.
Games also became popular during the Victorian era and were played at autumn play parties. Such games included bobbing for apples, jumping over candlesticks, and fortune-telling. Although games were about having fun, they were also about getting a peek into one's future. Mediums, palm reading, and tea leaf readings were often part of the festivities. Knowing the future was so enticing that women would often try to determine who they would marry and what their spouse and marriage would be like. These fortune-telling games included holding a lit candle over a bowl of water so that the wax drippings would spell out the name of your future spouse, or tossing nuts into the fire. If the nut burned steadily, it was believed that you would have a stable relationship. If the nut popped or jumped out of the fire, it was believed that your marriage would be problem-filled. Another game was to go out into a dark room with a mirror, candle, and an apple. A woman would have to peel the apple all in one piece or slice the apple. Then she would look in the mirror, and the face of her future husband would appear. If she saw a skull, it was believed that the woman would die within a year.
No Victorian Halloween party was complete without telling a few ghost stories. Ghost stories became extremely popular during the 1800s and led to many of the classical stories we know and love. Some of these stories include Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Legends of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and Dracula by Bram Stoker. Ghost stories were so unbelievably popular that they didn't stop at just Halloween. They worked their way into every season, including Christmas. This is best exemplified by Charles Dickens, who wrote A Christmas Carol in 1843. The embracing of ghosts and otherworldly beings during this time went on to influence not only literature, but the way we celebrate Halloween today.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed learning about Halloween in the Victorian era. If you would like to learn more about the Victorian era, the Grundy family, or our historic house museum, please visit grundymuseum.org, and when we reopen, we hope you'll stop by for a tour. If you would like more information on Halloween, ghost stories, or would like to read one of the books mentioned, please visit thegrundylibrary.org and stop by to check out a book. Remember to like this video and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also find and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.